Level 1. The Dreamer. You're 22 years old. You're sitting on a mattress on the floor of a one-bedroom apartment you share with 3 other people. You have $412 in your checking account. You have a laptop with a cracked corner and an idea you've written on 40 different napkins. Everyone you know thinks you should get a real job. Your parents think you should get a real job. You think about getting a real job every single day, and then you don't. You drop out of school, not because school is hard, because school is slow, and you don't have time to be slow. You tell your mother over the phone. She's quiet for a long moment. Then she asks if you've thought this through. You tell her you have. You haven't. Not really. You've thought through the idea. You haven't thought through the next 5 years. You max out 2 credit cards building the first version of the product. You eat rice and eggs for 6 months straight. You code until 4 a.m. and wake up at 8 to do it again. You have no investors. You have no plan B. Plan B feels like admitting plan A was never real. You launch. 40 people sign up in the first week. Then it stalls. Then it dies. Nobody notices your product exists. You sit in your apartment and look at the analytics dashboard showing 0 users online, and you feel something you don't have a word for yet. You will feel it many more times before this is over. You don't quit. You don't know why you don't quit. Everyone else would have quit by now.
Level 2. The Founder. You build a second version, then a third. The third one works. Not big, not yet, but it works. People are using it and coming back. You have 800 users. You have $0 in revenue. You have an idea that has finally stopped dying. You apply to a startup accelerator. You get in off the wait list because someone else dropped out. You move to a shared house with 30 other founders. You sleep 4 hours a night for 3 months. You pitch your idea in front of investors for the first time. Your hands shake. Your voice cracks on the second sentence. You get through it anyway. Demo day. You stand on a stage in front of 400 investors. Your slides are simple. Your story is simple. You talk about the problem you lived through personally, the nights you couldn't sleep because of it, the version of the product that finally solved it for you. You mean every word. 3 investors approach you afterward. 2 ghost you within a week. 1 doesn't. He wires $150,000 into a company that has never made a dollar. You stare at the number in your bank account for 10 minutes without moving. You call your mother. She doesn't fully understand what just happened. Neither do you. You hire your first employee the next week. He's a friend from college. You pay him less than he'd make at a coffee shop. He says yes anyway.
Level 3. The Operator. You're 25. You have 12 employees now, crammed into an office that used to be a dentist's practice. The smell of old carpet never fully leaves. You raise a seed round, $2 million. It feels like more money than exists in the world. It will be gone in 14 months if the business doesn't work. You work 90-hour weeks. You miss your sister's wedding because a server crashed the night before and 40% of your users couldn't log in for 6 hours. You call her from the office at 2 a.m. to apologize. She says she understands. You can hear in her voice that she doesn't, not really. You hang up and go back to the server logs. You hire fast. You fire faster. You fire your second employee, the friend from college, because he can't keep up with the pace the company now needs. It's the hardest conversation you've ever had. He doesn't speak to you again for 2 years. You tell yourself it was the right call. You still think about it some nights. Revenue starts moving, slowly, then less slowly. You hit $1 million in annual recurring revenue on a Tuesday. Nobody throws a party. Everyone's too tired. You order pizza for the office and go back to work by 7.
Level 4. The Operator. Scaled. You're 28. The company has 140 employees now, spread across 2 offices in 2 cities. You raise a Series B, $25 million. Reporters start writing about you. A magazine calls you a rising star in an industry that didn't exist 10 years ago. You don't feel like a rising star. You feel like a person barely keeping 14 fires from becoming 15 fires. You've stopped writing code yourself. You spend your days in meetings instead, hiring executives, managing a board that now has opinions about decisions you used to make alone in your bedroom. Your co-founder, the friend from the accelerator house, starts disagreeing with you in board meetings. Not loudly, just enough that the investors notice. You get married in a small ceremony between 2 fundraising trips. Your honeymoon is 4 days. You take 2 calls during it. Your spouse doesn't say anything about the calls. That silence will cost you something later, though you don't know it yet. The company crosses $20 million in revenue. You're profiled in a business publication with a photo of you standing in front of your office with your arms crossed, trying to look like a person who has this figured out. You don't have this figured out. Nobody tells you that's normal. You assume everyone else does. Level 5.
The public face. You're 32. The company IPOs. You ring a bell on a screen in front of cameras, and your face is on financial news networks for 11 minutes. Your stake in the company, on paper, is worth $340 million. You can't touch most of it. Lockup periods, legal restrictions, tax implications you don't fully understand yet and have to hire someone to explain to you. Your parents watch the bell ringing on a live stream from their kitchen. Your mother cries. It's the same crying you remember from other milestones in your life, except this time there were strangers on a trading floor clapping too. You buy your first house that isn't a rental. It has more bedrooms than you need. You walk through it alone before the furniture arrives, and your footsteps echo in a way that unsettles you slightly. You don't tell anyone that. The board brings in a professional CEO to run day-to-day operations. You become executive chairman. It's a promotion on paper. It feels like being asked to leave a room you built with your own hands. You tell yourself this is how companies scale. You still show up every day anyway, because you don't know how not to.
Level 6. The investor. You're 36. You start writing checks into other people's companies. Small ones at first, then bigger. You recognize something in the founders you fund. The same sleeplessness. The same napkins covered in ideas. The same refusal to have a plan B. You see yourself at 22 in almost every pitch meeting. Sometimes it makes you generous. Sometimes it makes you brutal, because you know exactly which weaknesses will kill them in 18 months. Your net worth crosses $1 billion on paper during a market rally on a Wednesday afternoon. You find out from a journalist who emails asking for comment. Before you've even checked the number yourself, you stare at the email for a long time. You don't feel different. You expected to feel different. Your spouse asks for a divorce that same year. Not because of the money, because of the 7 years of missed dinners, the honeymoon calls, the version of you that showed up to the marriage running on fumes. You don't fight it. You know she's right about most of it. You split the house. You keep the office. You throw yourself into the next company, and the next, and the next. Building things is the only language you're still fluent in.
Level 7. The empire. You're 41. You control a portfolio of companies across 5 industries: software, biotech, logistics, media, energy. You employ 40,000 people whose names you will never learn. You sit on boards that make decisions affecting entire supply chains on other continents. A decision you make on a Monday morning can shift the price of a commodity in a country you've never visited. You've stopped reading every contract. You have people for that now. You've stopped answering your own email. You have people for that too. The distance between you and the actual work grows every year, and some nights, you miss the years when it was just you, rice and eggs, and a cracked laptop. A subsidiary company makes a decision that ends up on the front page for the wrong reasons. A factory safety failure overseas. Workers hurt. A scandal that takes 6 months and $80 million to manage. You didn't make the call that caused it. You're still the name attached to it. You learn that scale means you're responsible for things you'll never personally touch. You testify in front of a Senate committee. You wear a suit that cost more than your first year's rent. You answer questions carefully, coached by 3 lawyers sitting behind you. You leave the hearing room and sit in the back of a car for 11 minutes without saying anything to anyone.
Level 8. The billionaire. You're 47. Forbes puts a number next to your name every year now. It goes up, it goes down. You've learned not to check it more than once a month, because checking it more than that will drive you insane, watching a number that isn't cash swing by hundreds of millions based on things you can't control. You buy a plane, not because you need one. You could charter one for a fraction of the cost. But because owning it means never waiting on someone else's schedule again. And after 25 years of your schedule belonging to investors, employees, and a board, that matters more than it should. You give away your first $100 million, a hospital wing, a university fund, a foundation with your name on the letterhead that you didn't ask for but didn't refuse either. People start treating you differently at dinners, leaning in slightly, laughing slightly harder at things that aren't that funny. You notice. You've noticed for years. You've just stopped saying anything about it. Your daughter, from your second marriage, is 9 years old. She doesn't know what you do exactly. She knows you're gone a lot. She draws you a picture of your family at the airport because that's where she sees you most. You put it in a frame in your office. You look at it more than you look at most things in that office. Level 9. The institution. You're 55. You're no longer really a person to most of the world. You're an institution, a name on buildings, a line item in economic forecasts, a Wikipedia page with a controversy section you've stopped reading. Governments call you when they need capital. Universities call you when they need buildings.
Your foundation gives away more money in a year than most countries' entire annual budgets for certain sectors. You sit across from world leaders at closed-door forums, discussing problems that used to feel abstract to you when you were 22 eating rice on a mattress: climate infrastructure, pandemic preparedness, food supply chains for regions you'll never visit. You have more influence over some of these outcomes than most elected officials. Nobody voted for you to have it. You have it anyway. You lose your mother that year. She's 81. She lived to see everything: the bell ringing, the mansion, the foundation with your name on it, and at the end, in the hospital room, she doesn't ask about any of it. She asks if you're happy. You don't have a clean answer. You tell her you are. You're not sure it's true. She smiles like she already knew that. You give the eulogy. You talk about rice and eggs and a cracked laptop and a mother who never once told you to quit, even when she probably wanted to. 300 people at the funeral. Half of them run companies you've invested in. The other half are family who barely see you anymore.
Level 10. The founder, again. You're 68. You stepped back from day-to-day control years ago. You still show up to board meetings out of habit more than necessity. The company's run without you needing to be in the room, which took you decades to admit was possible and longer to admit was healthy. You live in a house that's smaller than the one you bought after the IPO. You chose it that way. Fewer rooms to echo in. Your daughter visits with her own kids now. They don't know the man from the magazine profiles. They know the man who teaches them to fix a bike chain badly and laughs at himself for not remembering how. You've given away most of what you've built. Not all of it. You're not a saint, and you don't pretend to be one. But enough that the number next to your name in the business press has started shrinking on purpose for the first time in your life, and it feels better than every time it grew. You speak at a university graduation in the spring. You tell 4,000 kids in caps and gowns the truth, or as close to it as you've gotten. You tell them the money will not fix what's actually broken in them. You tell them the work will cost them marriages, mornings, and people they love, and some of that cost is never coming back. You tell them to build the thing anyway, but to look up more than you did. They clap politely. Half of them are already thinking about their own napkin covered in ideas, sitting in a dorm room somewhere. They don't believe you yet. You didn't believe the people who told you either. Somewhere right now, a 22-year-old is sitting on a mattress on the floor of a cheap apartment, staring at a cracked laptop, doing math on $412 they can't really afford to lose. They think they know what they're signing up for. They don't. The cycle continues.